I laughed when my sister said she'd name her baby after me, until she whispered, I've always felt like it was my name too, and everyone started calling her child, me. We were sitting in a cafe in Denver when she said it, just a normal afternoon, nothing dramatic. She looked calm. Too calm. Like this wasn't a suggestion. Like it had already been decided and I was just being informed. I'm naming her Grace Lewis, Faith said. My name. First and last. I let out a small laugh because that's what people do when something feels off but not serious enough to fight. That's my name, I said. I know, she answered, steady, almost quiet. Then she leaned closer, like she was letting me in on something private. I've always felt like it was mine too. There wasn't anything playful in her voice. No smile. No softening. Just certainty. I waited for her to laugh. She didn't. So I nodded like it made sense. Okay, I said. That moment should have been bigger. I know that now. But at the time, saying no felt dramatic. It's just a name, right? People name kids after family all the time. That's what everyone else said. When our mom found out, she got emotional immediately. That's beautiful, June said, like this was some kind of bonding moment. That means something. Our dad, Bill, didn't question it either. He just nodded like it was normal. Family name, he said. Happens all the time. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like honoring. It felt like something quieter. Something I couldn't explain without sounding ridiculous. Faith didn't bring it up again after that day. Not directly. She just acted like it was settled. And everyone else followed her lead. At the baby shower, my Aunt Joy made a speech about legacy and connection, like this baby was tying us together in some meaningful way. People kept smiling at me like I should feel proud. I smiled back because I didn't know what else to do. Faith watched me a few times during that day. Not openly. Just quick looks. Checking maybe. Measuring something. I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking everything. That's something I've done my whole life with her. Because growing up, Faith never did anything obvious enough to call out. She just inserted herself. If I liked something, she suddenly liked it too. If I got attention, she found a way to redirect it. Not aggressively. Not in a way anyone else would notice. Just enough that I'd feel it. If I said something, she'd repeat it later like it was her idea. If I had friends over, she'd slide into the conversation until they were laughing with her instead. If I dated someone, she'd be just a little too friendly with him. Nothing you could point at and say, that's wrong. Just enough to make you uncomfortable and then question why. It was always like that. Small. Controlled. Easy to dismiss. So I dismissed this too. Until the baby was born. Faith didn't tell me when she went into labor. I found out from our mom, already at the hospital. Come now, June said. She's about to have the baby. When I got there, everything felt rushed and loud and bright. Nurses moving, people talking, doors opening and closing. Faith looked exhausted when I finally saw her. Pale, quiet, but still, calm. That same calm. A nurse asked her something about the name for paperwork. Faith didn't hesitate. Grace Lewis, she said. Hearing it out loud in that setting felt different. Permanent. The nurse smiled. Beautiful name. I stood there, not saying anything, because what was I supposed to do? Correct it? Argue in a hospital room? No one looked at me. Not when she said it. Not when it was written down. Not when it became real. Later, when the baby was cleaned up and wrapped, they placed her in Faith's arms. She looked small. Quiet. Completely unaware of everything attached to her already. Faith looked down at her and said it again. Grace Lewis. Slow. Clear. Like she was making sure it landed. Then she looked up at me. Not smiling. Just watching. People started joking almost immediately. We've got 2 Grace Lewises now, someone said. Guess we'll have to call you Big Grace, Ken laughed from the corner of the room. Faith laughed with them. I forced a smile. It felt harmless in that moment. Just a joke people would forget in a few days. But it didn't stop. That same day, when our mom asked, where's Grace? Faith answered first. She's right here, she said, adjusting the baby. Our mom hesitated for a second, then nodded like that made sense. And something in my chest tightened. It was small. Easy to ignore. So I ignored it. I told myself it was just confusion. That it would pass. But even then, standing in that hospital room, watching my sister hold her baby and say my name like it belonged to her now, I had this quiet thought I couldn't shake. This isn't going to stop. I told myself it would settle down once we left the hospital. People get weird around newborns. Everything feels bigger than it is. Names, emotions, reactions. I figured once everyone went back to normal life, the confusion would fade and we'd all adjust. It didn't. If anything, it got worse. The first time I noticed it clearly was at my parents' house a week later. Faith had moved back in temporarily so our mom could help with the baby, which really just meant she never had to be alone. I walked in and heard my mom from the kitchen. Grace, can you grab the wipes? I turned automatically. Before I could even respond, Faith answered from the living room. She's right here, Mom, she said, lifting the baby slightly. My mom didn't correct her. She just said, okay, good, and kept talking. I stood there for a second, waiting for someone to realize what just happened. No one did. It sounds small when I say it out loud, but it didn't feel small in the moment. It felt like something shifted just a little, like I had stepped out of place without realizing it. I shook it off. Again. I went into the living room, sat down next to Faith, and looked at the baby. She's cute, I said. Faith smiled, softer this time, but still controlled. I know. Grace is perfect. The way she said it made it hard to tell who she was talking about. I didn't say anything. That became a pattern. Every visit, every conversation, there was just enough confusion to make things uncomfortable, but never enough for anyone else to react. If someone said my name across the room, Faith would answer. If I spoke, sometimes people would glance at the baby first before realizing it was me. At first, they'd correct themselves. Then they stopped. It turned into this quiet understanding that the name didn't belong to just one person anymore. And Faith leaned into that. She never used nicknames. Not once. Not even the kind people naturally use with babies. No, Gracie. No, G. Always full name. Grace Lewis is hungry. Grace Lewis is sleeping. Grace Lewis doesn't like that. She repeated it constantly, like she was making sure it stuck in everyone's head. One afternoon, I was sitting at my apartment, working, when my phone buzzed. It was Paige. Did you just post about a baby? I stared at the message, confused. No, I typed back. She sent me a screenshot. It was Faith's post. A picture of the baby, wrapped in a blanket, tiny hand curled against her chest. The caption said, "So proud of Grace Lewis, 2 hearts." My stomach dropped. At a glance, it looked like it was about me. People in the comments thought the same thing. Wait, you had a baby? Congratulations. When did this happen? Even people I hadn't talked to in months were messaging me. I called Faith. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Your post is confusing people. How? She asked. It looks like you're talking about me. She paused for a second, then said, well, it is her name. That's not the point, I said. People think it's me. Then they'll figure it out, she replied, like it didn't matter. That was it. No apology. No attempt to fix it. I hung up feeling like I had just missed something important. Like there was a layer to this I wasn't fully seeing yet. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not just the post, but everything leading up to it. The way she said my name at the cafe. The way she watched me in the hospital. The way she repeated it now, over and over, in every sentence. It didn't feel random. It felt intentional. And once that thought settled in, I couldn't unsee it. A few days later, I went back to my parents' house. Faith was sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone, the baby asleep next to her. Hey, I said. She looked up, smiled lightly. Hey. I sat across from her, trying to keep things normal. We need to fix the name confusion, I said. Her expression changed just slightly. What confusion? You answering when people call my name. The posts. It's weird. She stared at me for a second, like she was deciding how to respond. I think you're making it weird, she said finally. I'm not, I said, trying to stay calm. People are getting confused. I'm getting messages about your baby like it's mine. So correct them, she said. I shouldn't have to, I replied. This wouldn't be happening if what? She cut in. If you didn't use my exact name for everything, I said. Her eyes narrowed slightly. It's her name, she said again. I'm not going to change it because you're uncomfortable. I'm not asking you to change it, I said quickly. Just, maybe use a nickname sometimes. Or clarify. She let out a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. Why should I? She said. It's a normal name. That's not what this is about, I said. She leaned forward slightly, her voice quieter now. Maybe you just don't like that someone else can be associated with it. That hit harder than I expected. Because suddenly, it didn't feel like we were talking about a name anymore. It felt like we were talking about something else. Something older. Something that had been there for years, just never said out loud. I didn't respond. I just looked at her. And for the first time, I wasn't questioning whether I was overreacting. I was starting to wonder how long she'd been planning this. After that conversation, I tried to step back. Not dramatically. Not in a way anyone would notice. I just stopped going over as much. Answered messages slower. Let calls go to voicemail. I needed space to figure out if this was really happening or if I had just built it up in my head. But even with distance, it followed me. The confusion didn't stay inside the family anymore. It spread. A week later, I was at a small gathering with some people I used to work with. Nothing big, just drinks and casual conversation. I hadn't told most of them about Faith's baby yet, mostly because I didn't think it mattered that much. At some point, someone brought up social media. I saw your post, one of them said. I looked up. What post? The baby, she said. I didn't even know you were pregnant. There was a pause at the table. People started looking at me, waiting for me to explain. I didn't have a baby, I said, trying to laugh it off. She frowned and pulled out her phone. Then what was this? It was the same picture. Same caption. So proud of Grace Lewis. My chest tightened. That's my sister's baby, I said. Oh, she said, clearly confused. Then why does it say your name? Because that is her name, I said. I could hear how strange it sounded as soon as I said it. The table went quiet for a second. Then someone laughed, awkward, trying to smooth it over. That's kind of weird, he said. I nodded. Yeah, I said. It is. But even as I said it, I felt this pressure building in my chest. Because that was the first time someone outside the family said it out loud. Weird. Not sweet. Not special. Not meaningful. Weird. And for some reason, that made it feel more real. When I got home that night, I opened my phone and scrolled through Faith's posts. I hadn't really paid attention before. Not closely. Now I did. Every post used the full name. Every caption. Every comment. Grace Lewis is smiling today. Grace Lewis loves this song. Grace Lewis hates being cold. It was constant. Repetitive. Deliberate. I clicked into the comments. People tagging me. Is this you? I'm so confused right now, face with tears of joy. Wait, are there two of you? Some people had figured it out. Most hadn't. And Faith never corrected them. Not once. She liked the comments. Replied to them. Engaged with them. But never clarified. It felt like she was letting the confusion sit there on purpose. Like she wanted it to exist. I put my phone down and just sat there for a while. Because once you see something like that clearly, you can't go back to pretending it's accidental. It wasn't. A few days later, my mom invited everyone over again. Dinner, she said. Nothing big. I almost didn't go. But I did. When I walked in, Faith was already there, sitting on the couch, holding the baby, talking to Beth. Grace Lewis just started smiling, she was saying. Beth leaned in. Really? That's so cute. I stood there for a second before saying anything. Hi, I said. Faith looked up. Oh, hey, she said, like nothing was off. My mom came out of the kitchen. Grace, can you help me with something? I hesitated. Just for a second. And that was enough. Faith answered. She's busy, Mom, she said, adjusting the baby. My mom paused, then looked at me. Oh, sorry. I meant you, she said, like she had to correct herself. I nodded. It's fine, I said. But it wasn't. Because now it wasn't just happening. It was sticking. Even my mom had to think about it now. Even she wasn't sure which one she meant at first. That had never happened before. In the kitchen, I tried to focus on something normal. Plates. Food. Anything. But I could still hear Faith in the living room. Repeating it. Grace Lewis needs this. Grace Lewis likes that. Over and over. Like she was training everyone. Reinforcing it. When we sat down to eat, my dad looked at me and said, How's work, Grace? For a second, no one moved. Then Faith said, She's doing fine, before I could answer. I looked at her. Dad was asking me, I said. Faith tilted her head slightly. Oh, she said. I thought you meant her. No one said anything. Not my mom. Not my dad. Not Beth. They just kept eating. Like this was normal now. Like I was the one making it awkward by pointing it out. I pushed my plate away. I'm going to head out, I said. So soon? My mom asked. Yeah. I have work, I said. That wasn't true. I just needed to leave. As I grabbed my things, Faith spoke again, casually. Grace Lewis is getting tired anyway, she said. I stopped. Turned back. And for the first time, I didn't ignore it. Can you not do that? I said. The room went quiet. Faith looked at me, calm as ever. Do what? Say it like that, I said. Like it's the same. It is the same, she replied. No, it's not, I said. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't get angry. She just held my gaze. And then she said it again. Slowly. Clearly. Grace Lewis. I felt something shift in that moment. Not confusion. Not doubt. Something sharper. Because it finally clicked. This wasn't just about a name. This was about space. About presence. About who gets to exist clearly and who gets blurred out. And the worst part? She knew exactly what she was doing. After that night, I stopped pretending it was harmless. I didn't confront her again right away. I didn't make a scene. I just changed how I moved around her. Shorter visits. Fewer responses. No engagement when she did it. But she noticed. Faith always notices. A few days later, she showed up at my apartment without warning. I opened the door, and she was standing there with the baby in her arms like everything was normal. Hey, she said. Can I come in? I hesitated. Not long enough to say no. She walked past me before I even fully stepped aside, settling onto my couch like she'd been there 100 times before. The baby was quiet, half asleep, her head tucked into Faith's shoulder. Grace Lewis loves this place, she said softly, adjusting the blanket. I didn't respond. I stayed standing for a second, then sat across from her. What do you want, Faith? She looked up, almost surprised by the tone. Nothing, she said. I just thought we should talk. I let out a small breath. About what? About how weird you've been acting, she said. That almost made me laugh. I've been weird. I said. Yes, she replied, calm, steady. You've been distant. You barely come over anymore. I leaned back slightly. Do you really not understand why? She tilted her head, like she was genuinely considering it. No, she said. That was the moment I realized something important. Either she was pretending, or she truly believed she wasn't doing anything wrong. And I didn't know which one was worse. It's the name, I said. Everything around it. You answering for me. The posts. The way you keep repeating it. She sighed, like she was tired of hearing it. We've already talked about this. No, I said. You dismissed it. That's not the same thing. She shifted slightly, tightening her hold on the baby. It's her name, she said again. And it's mine, I replied. Silence sat between us for a second. Then she smiled. Not big. Not friendly. Just enough. You don't own it, she said. I never said I did, I answered. But you're acting like I don't exist when you use it. That's dramatic, she said. It's not, I said. You answer when people call my name. Because they don't clarify, she said quickly. You don't give them a chance to, I shot back. She didn't respond right away. She just watched me. Then, slowly, she said, maybe they just mean her now. That landed harder than anything else she'd said. Because it wasn't defensive. It wasn't dismissive. It was matter of fact. Like she had already decided that was true. I stared at her. You don't actually believe that, I said. She shrugged. Why not, she said. She's going to grow up with that name. People are going to use it. You'll just have to get used to it. Something about the way she said get used to it made my chest tighten. Like this wasn't a discussion. It was a transition. One I wasn't part of. I shook my head slightly. That's not what this is, I said. You're not just using the name. You're replacing me in conversations. In situations. Even online. She let out a quiet laugh. You're really overthinking this. No, I said. I'm finally seeing it clearly. That was the first time her expression changed. Just for a second. A flicker. Then it was gone. She looked down at the baby, brushing a hand lightly over her head. Grace Lewis is going to have a good life, she said softly. I stood up. Stop saying it like that, I said. She didn't look up. Why? She asked. Because you're not just talking about her, I said. You're making it sound like I'm interchangeable. That made her smile again. And this time, it stayed. Maybe you are, she said. The room went completely still. I didn't say anything right away. Because there it was. Not hidden. Not subtle. Clear. She looked up at me, calm, steady, like she had just said something obvious. People don't really notice the difference anyway, she added. I felt something settle in me then. Not anger. Not panic. Just clarity. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to figure out if I was overreacting. I wasn't trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. I wasn't trying to make it smaller so it would feel manageable. I just saw it. Exactly for what it was. You're doing this on purpose, I said quietly. She didn't deny it. She didn't confirm it either. She just looked at me. And that was enough. I walked to the door and opened it. You should go, I said. She didn't move at first. Then she stood slowly, adjusting the baby against her shoulder. Grace Lewis is tired anyway, she said as she walked past me. I didn't react. Didn't argue. Didn't correct her. I just watched her leave. And when the door closed, I finally let myself think something I had been avoiding this whole time. This wasn't going to stop on its own. So if I wanted my name, my space back, I was going to have to take it. I didn't go back to my parents' house for a while after that. Not out of anger. I just needed distance. Because once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. And being around Faith started to feel like I was stepping into a version of reality where I didn't fully exist. My mom kept calling. Grace, you haven't visited. I've been busy. With what? Work. Pause. Faith's been asking about you. I almost laughed. I'll come by this weekend. Not for them. For me. Because I knew if I didn't face it, it would keep going. When I walked in, everything looked normal. Same house. Same routine. Faith was already there, holding the baby. Hey. My mom came out of the kitchen. Grace, can you help me with something? This time, I didn't hesitate. I'm right here. Faith didn't respond. She just looked down at the baby. We sat down. Small talk. Food. Silence sitting under everything. Then I said it. I need to say something. The room went still. I'm not comfortable with what's been happening. What do you mean? My mom asked. I looked at Faith. The name. The way you use it. The way you answer for me. The way you let people get confused. It's her name, she said. I know. But you're using it like I don't exist. That's not true. It is. And you know it. No one interrupted this time. I'm not asking you to change her name, I said. I'm asking you to stop using mine like it replaces me. Faith looked at me. You're making this bigger than it is. You've been making it small enough that no one questions it. Silence. She held the baby closer. Grace Lewis is fine, she said. I'm fine, I said. And I didn't let it blur. There are two of us. And I'm not disappearing. After that, nothing exploded. Things just shifted. My mom corrected herself faster. My dad looked directly at me when he spoke. Faith stopped answering for me. Not completely different, but enough. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't accountability. But it was something. And that was enough. Because it was never really about the name. It was about space. About being seen clearly. About not letting someone slowly rewrite you while everyone calls it harmless. I almost let it happen. I almost convinced myself it didn't matter. But it does. Not because I own a name, but because I exist outside of it. I used to think identity was something solid. Something no one could take from you. But it isn't. It shifts in small moments. In who answers when your name is called. In who people look at first. In who gets to exist without being questioned. And sometimes you don't notice it happening until you feel yourself fading. Faith didn't fight me. She just stepped into the space I left open. And stayed there long enough that people accepted it. Maybe she knew. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. What I do know is this. I'm still here. Not the original. Not the other one. Just me. And for the first time, that feels like something I chose. So I guess what I'm still trying to figure out is, was it all just a misunderstanding? Or did she know exactly what she was doing?